We're gonna go do our first garden tour of the year. Okay, we're gonna go down to the tunnels first because that is where most of the things that we've planted this year are. Okay, come on in. Got the shade cloth on already this year. It's currently 95 degrees outside and it's a little bit cooler in here because we have this shade cloth on. First up, we have all of our strawberries on this side. These strawberries, they were runners from last year and I just transferred them over here so that we can have a consistent supply because strawberries are super productive in the first 3 years and then they kind of die out. So that is why we started a new bed here, and then next year we'll start another one just so we have strawberries all the time. So I have paper down as weed barrier, so it's gonna be kind of loud and crinkly as I talk, but all of these are grapes down here. We still need to put up a trellis for the grapes. This little bush right here is a pomegranate, and I don't know if it's going to produce it all or not. It's an experiment because we're right on the edge of it being too cold to grow these, which is why I put it in the tunnel. This summer squash is called Ronde-Nice, and it's a French variety that grows into like a little round ball, kind of similar to the lemon squash, but they're green instead. Up from the summer squash, we have winter squash here. These are from seeds that I saved. I think these are called honey patch. I can't remember. I'll put the right words on the screen there. But we've been going through these and duct taping the squash bugs. We're already at that point of the year where we have a lot of squash bugs. So I just pick them up, duct tapes. There's actually some right there. Tape, thank you. Some there, yeah, right there. Yeah, they like to hide. Okay, got them. See? There they are. And then you can see a little bit of eggs right here. While I'm here, I'm just gonna get these off, and then they are. And then I just throw this away once it's full. I'm actually gonna keep this here because I'll probably come back later. Finish. Yeah, there's some more right there. Okay, hang on, I gotta get those. This is gonna be a long garden tour if I keep doing all this kind of stuff. So this last row over here, we did a bunch of peppers this year. Last year we didn't have enough, so we made sure we did a lot more, and I have even more started in the tunnel over there. I don't have a lot of jalapenos in here. I have a lot of like the sweet snacking peppers in this area. These are Cosmos back here, and I had all of these peppers labeled at one point, but since we have a 2-year-old who comes out in the garden with me, he likes to pull out all of the labels. So it's just gonna be a big surprise as to what these actually are. I think I'll be able to tell once they start to bear fruit what each one of them is, but pretty much all of my plants out here, one of his favorite things to do is just pull out all the labels. So up from the peppers, we have Cosmos here. We put in these T-posts for the peppers for trellising. Once they get big enough, I will trellis around those peppers, but they're still kind of small. And the same for these Cosmos, I may have to trellis them a little bit. So we have some regular Roma tomatoes here. And then up here we have what's called Midnight Roma tomatoes. This is my first year growing these, so we're just testing these out. I am using Florida weave to trellis these. And then over on this side, I can't even remember what these varieties are. And like I said, nothing's labeled right now, but we will figure it out once they start to grow a little bit more. I think these are probably cherry tomatoes in here, and they're indeterminate. They look like they're gonna be taller. And then up here towards the front, I have more Roma tomatoes. I know what I grew, I just don't know where it all is. In the summertime, I am often coming out to the garden at about 1 o'clock in the afternoon. That's because that is when I have my toddler and the baby nap, so it's the best time for me to be out here. It is not the best time to be comfortable out here. It gets really hot. So I am very excited to talk to you about today's sponsor, Torres Coolify. Coolify is the inventor of wearable air conditioners. This one right here is the Coolify Air. It is not a neck fan, it's actually like a personal air conditioner. Coming out here in the middle of the day when it's so hot, it just really feels really good because it has these cooling plates which lowers the temperature so you can feel that on your neck. And then it also has cool air that goes around your face. It has 3 different modes for all your needs. You can choose from fan, cooling, or heat therapy. It's also ultra lightweight. Another awesome thing about this is when I'm outside, I never really have to worry about it turning off because it has a very long battery life. So in addition to the Coolify Air, they also make another personal air conditioner. It's called the Coolify Cyber. This thing cools everything, not just your neck, but also your face and upper back. And you're also able to control it via Bluetooth with an app, so it's super convenient. I was wearing the Coolify Cyber as I was cleaning up the garden and prepping for the garden tour, and it made it so much more comfortable to work. And then I handed it off to Cam and he was loving it. If you want to check out the Coolify Air or Cyber, just click my link down in the video description. So now we are going into our first tunnel. Let me turn this water off. Seed starting area in the front. We've planted pretty much everything so far, with the exception of we have some more Roma tomatoes going in the ground soon. I wanted to make sure I had more because I only had about 30-ish that I planted, and usually I'm planting like 100. We had some problems with disease in the seed starting stage, and so I had to restart a lot of those.
Are those the ones I did?
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
So over in here, I started a bunch of corn in soil blocks because I was so nervous that they weren't going to sprout over there because we've had all the rain, and I kept seeing a crow like in the area, and I wanted to make sure that all of them sprouted and didn't get eaten. So before this, I had them all covered with this row cover just to make sure the rodents didn't eat any of those, and they all sprouted great, and they really need to go in the ground like ASAP. These are Cam's. He's growing his hatch chili peppers again this year. We're just a little bit later on getting those started. And then right here we have a lot of mint, and this is a lemon tree trying to grow with the mint. And the same back here. Mint is so invasive, which is why it's in pots so it doesn't spread everywhere. This one is a lime tree, and it's regrowing a lot of its leaves because when I take these inside in the winter, I have to admit I'm terrible at taking care of my plants inside. Once they get outside and we can get the automatic water on them and we get fertilizer on them, then they start to love it and regrow and everything. So I've got a lime here, and I think I have a lemon back in there. This crazy plant mass here, this is actually celery that has gone to seed. And well, it's really close to going to seed. I was looking at this earlier today, and there are a few seeds that are really close to being ready. So I'm super excited to be able to save my own seeds from this celery. This is my first time saving seeds from the celery. I have like 5 or 6 plants here. It is crazy how huge they get. I had just let them grow before, and they were just flopping like all over the place, which is why I just like gather them all together like this. And I'm gonna have like 1 million seeds. Way too many. But it was fun. It's a fun experiment. Tomatoes in here where I'm using, this is the clipper system for the trellising. I'm actually using 3 different trellising systems this year for the tomatoes because the kids are using a different one for theirs. And at this point you can't really see how this works, but hopefully in later garden tours I'll be able to show you how this works. Actually, all the tomatoes in this tunnel, all of them are indeterminate. I believe these are German Johnson up here, and then I have Eva Purple Ball in the back. Over here on this side, this is all strawberries. I have Chandler in the front and then Early Glow in the back. They're still producing. My strawberries in the tunnel, they always way outproduce what I grow outside. They keep producing over a longer span of time rather than just all like giving one big harvest at once. I just feel like they produce for months, and I thought it was just like the first year, and they're doing it again this year. They've been producing for almost 2 months now, which is amazing. Kind of on the sides and then down the middle, I have some bouquet dill. I have a little bit of basil mixed in here. These little guys on the sides, this is strawberry blonde calendula. And let's walk down here. This right here is another plant that I am letting go to seed. I'm trying to save more of my seeds this year, and I was really inspired by what I saw in France. They let a lot of their plants go to seed, and a lot of them are actually like really pretty when they go to seed, and they feed a lot of the pollinators too. So at this point though, this one is actually not looking super healthy. It has some aphids on it. The aphids won't affect the seeds. Okay. As far as I know. I believe it's new red fire lettuce. Back in here, we just transplanted some celery. Some of it made it, some of it didn't. And then we have some more lettuce, and kind of had the same thing happen in here. We didn't water the first day and it was very hot. So some of them may not make it, but that's okay. I'll just plant some more. Right over here, I just planted some parsnips in here. It has been years since I planted the parsnips, and I'm excited to have some more of these. I actually really love the flavor of them, and we just haven't grown them because I always forget that you have to grow them pretty early in the season because it takes 120 days-ish for them to mature. And then this one right here, this is a spinach that I am letting go to seed to see if I can save the seeds from that. I'm letting a lot of things go to seed inside the tunnel because it's a better environment for seed saving. It's a lot drier. And as I mentioned in some of my earlier videos, and I may have even mentioned it in this one already, we get a ton of rain. And so it's not ideal for a lot of seed saving. So this one, this is a radish that is going to seed. And I have a couple of them here that are going to seed. And I was gonna plant my parsnips all the way up this row, but I didn't have enough seeds, so it's empty right now. I need to plant something here. We have more lettuce here that is going to seed. These actually look a lot healthier. They don't have any of the aphids on them. Earlier in the season, I planted some muscadine grapes here, and then we cover cropped this whole area. The cover crop grew really well. As you can see, we're kind of at the point now where it's starting to go to seed. So I really need to mow this down. I don't mind if it goes to seed because I'm not planning on planting anything in here, but the muscadine grapes, they need some sun. So that's the main reason I need to mow this area down. This is where our corn is going to go. The back half is gonna be sweet corn. Front half, I'm gonna do dent corn. But I have to stagger the plantings because you're not supposed to plant them at the exact same time, or else your sweet corn won't be as sweet, or so I hear. I've never actually tested that out before. You can see we still have the chickens and the turkeys in the garden. Sometimes, you can see right now, the chickens get out because I'm putting them on these wood chip paths, and then they dig holes underneath and they slide out underneath. But so far it hasn't been too big of an issue. We just put them back in at night because we don't have a ton of small plants right now, but they're kind of like digging through all of this and making a big mess. Eventually, if chickens are out for a long time, they will cause like a lot of damage. So we just need to move the tractor, and then we won't have that issue anymore. Up in here, this first part of this row, I transplanted this asparagus from over where I used to have it into this new spot. This is Mary Washington and Purple Passion asparagus. And then in this area, we planted some zinnias, and then we have dahlias back here. These ones I started from seed. And then back in here, so these ones I planted from the tubers that I dug up last year, saved them in the shed. And you can see they just grow faster and they grow true to whatever you save. This area, I planted a bunch of sweet potatoes. I have my usual Beauregard that I planted, and I also bought some new ones, some purple ones, and another kind that I can't remember the name right now, but I'll look it up and put it on there. They're supposed to be better for making sweet potato fries. I never knew that there were types that were better for certain things than others, and they're supposed to be a little bit drier and better for that. Over on this side, these are all sunflowers, and they are a type of cutting sunflower. So we're in the caterpillar tunnel right now. This is where my kids have planted their gardens this year, and my boys are at a church camp and Noelle's watching the kids. So I'm just gonna give you a brief overview of what's here, and then hopefully next month, if they want to show you, they can show you themselves. Up in the front there is zinnias, and then that looks like celery, watermelon, cosmos, cilantro. This is borage. These are like the tiny little tomatoes that you can grow in like a little pot. They're really cute. I don't know what other kinds of tomatoes. This is Dax's row. This tomato right here, I love this tomato. Just for decorative reasons. I don't even know what the fruit's gonna taste like, but I think these were free seed in the Baker's Creek packages. Zinnias and arugula. Lots of cucumbers. I bet these are almost ready. Oh yeah, that's ready. He had some initial trouble with the cucumber beetles in here, so some of the bottom leaves are like really chewed up, and then a lot of times they'll have, you know, kind of ugly fruit like this, but luckily they haven't been so bad that it killed the plants. It's just things look kind of funky right now. So more borage here. Then zinnias, more cilantro. This is going to seed. This looks like cantaloupe. Then over on this side, this is Noelle's row. She grew some cantaloupe down here. And then she has watermelons. The watermelons do really well in the tunnel. Cosmos, this is marigolds. And she's got tomatoes up in here. Lots of basil and more tomatoes. So you guys will have to stay tuned for next month. They'll tell you all the kinds that they planted. We had the asparagus here last year, and we had a really big problem with the Johnson grass. So I have just kept tarps on this for the majority of this year, and I will probably keep them here just to get rid of that grass because it is so bad. You can see it's still trying to grow underneath the tarps. That is how crazy it is. So hopefully that will eventually die off, and then we can try and rebuild that area so it's a little bit better. And luckily I have enough garden space here that having a bunch of it covered is not a big deal. If you remember, I had the huge potato issue, and we replanted potatoes, and we had extra that we planted in these 2 rows. This is a better area of the garden for drainage, I found out, because these potatoes grew without me doing hardly anything. And then to the side of the potatoes, I planted some beans. Potatoes and beans are supposed to be a good companion planting because they deter each other's pests. And these green beans, these are jade. They're just starting to flower, so we'll be getting those pretty soon. This spot in the garden, it was covered with silage tarp, and we just took that off and moved it over here right next to the potatoes. We had a cover crop there. I mowed it down, and I needed to tarp that before planting into it. And what is going to be planted here is the tomatoes, the Romas that I had in the soil blocks in the tunnel over there. I'm going to plant those here, and then we also are going to plant the peppers here. Last year we had corn here, and as you can see, there's still some residual stuff, so we got to get the beds all prepped. We're going to use some paper to prevent weeds in this area. Hopefully we'll get to that soon. There's a lot going on, a lot to do. I got to get my corn planted first, then the tomatoes. This little area of herbs and things I planted last year. This is lemon balm. It's gotten huge. There are so many herbs in here that are like going to seed, and they don't look that great right now because we just had So much rainfall this year. Somebody asked me a little while ago, like, how do you know if something needs fertilizer? If it's starting to look yellow, it will need fertilizer. And so a lot of these plants are kind of at that stage. I just sprinkled on some fertilizer yesterday because I could see that they were really in need of some nitrogen to be able to grow a little bit better. This right here is sorrel. This is going to seed. And then we have some oregano going to seed. These are those Egyptian walking onions. My sister Amy gave me those a couple years ago. I had some cilantro in here, but that is also going to seed right now. And then chives, those are going to seed too. So this isn't like the most beautiful time of year for my little herb section. This is the potato patch. If you remember way back, I planted these, they rotted once. I replanted them. Guess what? A lot of them rotted again, and that was because we were still getting a lot of rain, and this is a really poor drainage area of the garden. I learned that when the other ones, they popped right up, no problems at all. I'm like, this area is really low. It's just a low spot. So we kind of went in through here with the plow and made some spots for it to drain, and I also mixed in some cocoa peat stuff to lighten up the soil a little bit and make it less dense. So hopefully by next month's garden tour, we'll have a beautiful full potato patch here. If not, I'll still get a decent harvest from what's back there. These are my outdoor planted strawberries, and they're done right now. They have a lot of spots on them because I grow them organically without spraying anything. And so I get a lot of issues like that because they're outdoors, whereas the ones in the tunnel, no issues because they're in the tunnel. And in the back, I have some flowers back there. I just replanted some zinnias and dahlias. I had them planted here last year, and a bunch of the seeds dropped, and so I've just been moving them in a more organized fashion in the back. So now we've got what was the garlic here. All that's left in here is the soft neck garlic. I harvested all of the hard neck garlic last week or 2 weeks ago, and they're drying in our garage right now. Really good harvest this year though. I'm very happy with how that turned out. So one good thing, you always have like a couple fails like the potatoes, and then the garlic was definitely a win this year, so that's good. So here is our asparagus patch. I've got it trellised with T-posts, and then I just take string and I just gather it all together so it doesn't flop everywhere. And we got a really good asparagus harvest this year. Cam took over planting the watermelon and the cucumbers, and I asked him what kind of watermelons these are, and he just said red ones. So that's as much as I know there. And then these cucumbers, these are China long, and in the back we have some more cantaloupe planted. In this row, these cabbages I planted way back last fall. I let a lot of them go to seed. This is more of my seed saving efforts, way more seeds than I will ever need. I also planted leeks in this area, and these are going to seed too. These are actually from seeds that I saved 2 years ago or something like that. So this is where I planted some lettuce mixes, and then I have carrots in between there. And as you can see, these lettuce mixes are done. So I have been working on pulling those out so the carrots have room to grow in here because they're done. It was actually a really good interplanting thing because by the time these were done, the carrots were big enough. And so I just need to pull the rest of these out. So I'll probably do that little mix again. On these bigger trellises, these are snap peas. I just do sugar snap peas every year. I'm growing less and less of them as the years go by because I find we like them less and less. We like the flavor of them. We just grow too many and then we get sick of them. So we've basically just grown enough to eat fresh this year. Then over on these rows over here, these were the shelling peas, and these, everybody loves the shelling peas. So I'm just gonna have to like replace most of our snap peas next year with shelling. The hard part about these is that we get a lot of weeds in this area because I can't use weed barrier. So it's been a fight against the weeds, but we're kind of on the tail end of these peas. I'm about ready to rip them out anyway, so it'll just be easier to weed everything when I pull out the peas. Then over here, a lot of bulb onions. I fertilized them a couple of times already just because all that rain really like drains out a lot of the nitrogen there. So some of them are for storage, some of them are sweet. On the end of this little onion row here is we have some lettuce here that is about going to seed. This one is Coastal Star. It's good for heat, but it's finally bolting. It's been here a while. And then New Red Fire lettuce. Got my water. It's too hot to walk around without water. Plus, I don't normally talk very much. So I'm gonna show you guys all of the fruits that we have. They have been growing slowly over the last 4 or 5 years. And we're finally starting to get some good harvests, which I'm so excited about. The grass around the fruit right now is very high. We don't normally keep it this high. It's just because our lawnmower broke like 2 weeks ago. First off, we have elderberries here. You can see some of the flowers starting to go, and then we'll get berries really soon. So the first two here, these are Nova. And every year I've just kind of thrown a bunch of wood chips on them. I haven't really done that much, and they're just spreading into like these big bushes, which is totally fine by me. And then this one is a York elderberry. And then we have one here and one down there by the bees. I'm hoping that we can make some elderberry syrup. In years past, we just haven't had quite enough elderberries to make syrup. So you probably can't see very much, but these are where we planted blackberries this year. This is Kiowa blackberries. They're pretty vigorous blackberries, so I'm not too worried about how many weeds are here. I do have plans to pull out some of these weeds and sheet mulch this area so that they grow a little bit better. That is what we've done with all of the fruits around here, is we just take cardboard or paper, lay that down, and then we layer on a bunch of mulch to be able to combat a lot of the perennial weeds. The main bad guys are Johnson grass and Bermuda grass. Those can do a lot of creeping and taking over. We have a little patch of raspberries here. We started out with a lot of raspberries, and only one variety has really made it. Our area, I don't think it's that great for growing raspberries. We're like right on the edge of being too far south for raspberries, so they don't love it here. They don't look super healthy, but they do produce some. Hopefully with the irrigation and stuff on them this year, we will have better results, and you know, I could do a better job of throwing compost on them too, which is probably where the issue is. Blackberries, on the other hand, like I hardly have to do anything and they're just go crazy here. So we will go over this way to where we have blueberries first and then the blackberries past there. So I'll show you the blueberries first. This is one example of where we have started to do more sheet mulching. These blueberries are producing right now. Yummy. I'm gonna eat some of these. You want one? Yeah, yummy. These are northern high bush blueberries. They're the ones that do best. I do have some southern high bush over here. I don't love the flavor of those because we can actually grow either just same kind of thing with the raspberries. We're like right on the line of being warm for the northern high bush, too cold for the southern one. So I grow both, but these actually grow really well, these northern high bush ones. So this variety right here is Washita. They are just starting to get ready. I went through here and I tipped a bunch of these plants. This is the time to tip your blackberries. What tipping does is it helps signal to the plant to send shoots out the sides, and then you get more blackberries, and then they don't get too tall either. I got all these tipped to like, they're like 5 feet-ish in height. Oh, that was good. That was a good one. Cam still needs to build my trellis for these. This whole row is Ponca. Ponca is a super sweet blackberry. So last year the deer came through and they like hard pruned them all down for me, so none of them got really very tall. Ooh, here's a good little patch. So we do deal with some like birds coming through and eating these, and we also get stink bugs, makes them taste bad. But the ones that are good, they are really good. We have the Johnson grass coming up through here. This is what it looks like. So that's why we just keep sheet mulching. I'm not gonna go through and like hand pick all the weeds in this area. This type of blackberry is the one that will bear fruit on the first year canes. So you can see right here, this is from this year. These are actually thorny and it's starting to make flower buds, so we'll get some of these in the fall. Over here, these need sheet mulched really bad too, but this is something I haven't shown yet. I planted some cherry bushes. These are mostly Juliet, and I have one called Romeo down here and one other. Starts with a C, I can't remember, but I'll look it up and put it on there. I'm excited about those because at our previous property, we had a Nanking cherry, and just as we were moving out, that bush got huge and we decided to just leave it there. And then the owners that are still there, I think they just ended up ripping it out. So last year I told Kim, I was like, I really wish I had saved that bush. And so we just planted some more down in here. And these right here, these are boysenberries, and we need to get some trellising here and sheet mulching. Same story for the whole little wild berry patch that we have here. But now we will go down and show you some of the fruit trees really quick. There isn't a ton growing on them, but I do have a few fruits on them this year. Just made it down to the orchard and we're losing our light really fast. So I'm just gonna hit the highlights here at the orchard, which is basically our one tree that is producing fruit. This is an enterprise tree. It is very disease resistant. So the only issues that we're ever gonna have really are probably just bugs. There are some of the apples. And actually there's more over here. Yeah. Oh, there's more than I thought. That's cool. Yeah, that's so a little bit of bug damage so far. So I'm kind of assessing, like, do I need to spray any sort of organic sprays? Usually I don't, but for fruit trees, it's kind of a necessity if you really want to get anything off your fruit trees in a lot of cases. So I'm just kind of seeing what type of bugs we have before I do any type of preventative spraying. I bought some Surround, the clay. I didn't spray it on this year, but next year I'll probably do that because it's just clay. Look at how tall that is. Yeah. Holy cow. Yeah, there's your Asian pear.
Oh, nice.
So this is a Korean giant pear tree. It's very tall. We're gonna have to prune that back. These are all pear trees. I'm just kind of checking to see if there's any pears. We didn't have very many pears go this year. I'm not really sure why that is. No problems with the apples, but the pears. Oh yeah, that's right. The deer came and they ate.
They snuck in here.
They ate a bunch of the lower stuff. But I still should have gotten some up top. I don't know why I didn't get any up top. Thanks for joining us for this garden tour. I'm gonna go in and eat dinner. Enjoy some fresh garden food. You say bye? Say bye.
Bye.